This is the third part of the series about which is easier, Italian, Portuguese, French or Spanish, for an English learner. Today we're talking about grammar, but we're going to tackle it differently from the other two episodes, because we cannot possibly talk about every grammar point or even everything about a particular grammar point. There may be things you find particularly difficult about grammar when learning a foreign language, so hopefully this will give you some pointers as to which language or languages might be easier for you. Is easier better? Not necessarily, but it's the metric we're going with. And as we go through this, bear in mind that there are exceptions to practically everything with languages. So these are general rules in most cases. Let's start with how they deal with word genders, more specifically definite and indefinite articles. What are definite and indefinite articles? The and a, and in some cases can be thought of as how we would say some, although there are other ways of saying some with specific words in addition to what is in this and the next section. First, French. For the, French has le masculine singular, la feminine singular, L apostrophe for singular words beginning with vowels, and les, plural, for both masculine and feminine. For a, French has un, masculine singular, une, feminine singular. There is no plural a in French. We'll deal with some in the next section. That's pretty straightforward. Now, Spanish. For the, Spanish has el, masculine singular, la, feminine singular, los, masculine plural, las, feminine plural. For a or some, Spanish has un, masculine singular, una, feminine singular, unos, masculine plural, unas, feminine plural. Again, pretty straightforward. How about Portuguese? For the, Portuguese has o, masculine singular, a, feminine singular, os, masculine plural, as, feminine plural. Yeah, feminine the is a. A little more difficult that for an English speaker. For a and some, Portuguese has masculine singular, uma, feminine singular, uns, masculine plural, umas, feminine plural. Again, slightly more difficult with a change from M to N. And yes, I've left Italian till last deliberately. If you already know, you know. For the, Italian has il, masculine singular, lo, masculine singular when following words beginning with S plus a consonant, or Z, GN, PN, PS, X and Y. La, feminine singular. L apostrophe, singular words beginning with a vowel or a silent H. E, masculine plural. Gli, masculine plural when following words begin with S plus a consonant or Z, GN, PN, PS, X or Y, or a vowel. Le, feminine plural. Deep breath. For a, Italian has un, masculine singular, uno, masculine singular when following words beginning with S plus a consonant or Z, GN, PN, PS, X and Y. Una, feminine singular, un with an apostrophe, feminine singular with words beginning with a vowel. We'll deal with some in the next section. And I hope I haven't made any errors there. That's quite complicated to read out. So I think we definitely have a winner in ease of learning here, and that's Spanish. French and Portuguese probably tie as a second, and Italian is way, way off in the distance. Seriously though, in Italian, once you've learnt it, the only thing that might trip you up from time to time are the uses of lo, uno and gli. I still make mistakes, but some of those latter combinations are quite infrequent. Next, contractions of an article with prepositions. So that's words like in, on, of, with the. All these languages contract some of these in some form or another. Shall we start with Italian this time just for a laugh? Or rather because that's fresh in your mind. And it needs to be. This is what it looks like. So all of those definite articles can be combined with the following: a meaning at, da meaning from, di meaning of, but these combinations can be used for some too, in meaning in, su meaning on. There is also con meaning with, which is an optional contraction in 2 cases only. These are frequently used, so you will get used to them, but it is a lot when you first get hit with them. Okay, let's keep with the more complex ones and go for Portuguese next. Portuguese contracts the definite article with a meaning to, de meaning of or from, em meaning in, por meaning through or by, to give us this. These I do find more difficult because some of them don't look like the original words, specifically the latter two. Portuguese also has a lot more contractions of other word combinations, so this is only a part of what you'll have to learn. How about French? The French de meaning of, from, about can be contracted, or rather changed, when combined with a definite article to translate to some in English too, but it doesn't change all forms, just the masculine and plural. French also combines the definite article with a, meaning to or at. Again, this is only for the masculine singular and plural forms. Otherwise, the 2 words are split. That's a lot less complex, I think you'll agree. And finally, Spanish. Could this be even easier? There are only 2 regular contractions in Spanish with the definite article. I don't even need a table for this. A meaning to or at and de meaning of or from contract only with el, the masculine singular form, and become del and al. Otherwise it's just 2 words. That's it. We have a winner. Let's stick with gender and look at word endings. So all of these languages have agreement endings on various types of words, but to not make this too complicated, we're just going to talk about nouns here, because that will give you a good idea of the complexity of the topic. Spanish. Spanish might be the easiest one for this again. Let's see. Most nouns will have an O ending for masculine singular and an A for feminine singular, but some end in a consonant or an E. For the plural, where the ending is O, A, or E, you simply add an S. Where the ending is a consonant, you add an ES. There are, as always, the odd exceptions. Italian. Okay, if we're just talking about nouns, Italian might come in second here. If we were adding in adjectives, it likely wouldn't, but we'll take the pluses where we can. The vast majority of Italian words end in a vowel. In general, nouns that are masculine end with O and feminine end with A, but there are also some words that end with an E that can be either, and there's an A grave ending that is feminine too. And of course there are exceptions. In plural, the masculine O changes to I. The feminine A changes to E. The singular E changes to I. And the A grave stays as is, the same in singular and plural. There are the odd words that break these rules, one of which is foreign words, which are usually kept singular for the plural, but can be designated as masculine or feminine. And there is another exception that's a little more difficult because there are some masculine words that end in an A and go into I in the plural. There are other exceptions, but I think that one is probably the most confusing. Well, apart from the fact that a significant number of body parts change from masculine to feminine in the plural, but let's gloss over that one. French doesn't have such an easy to recognise definition of masculine and feminine nouns, such as O and A. Endings are as varied as English, but there are some endings that are generally masculine or feminine. Masculine would be AGE, MENT, OIR, SME, EAU, EU, OU, IER, IN, and ON. Feminine would be ANCE, ANSE, ENCE, ENSE, ION, T acute, TIE acute. Plural changes depend on the word. Many just add an S, but others are more complex, such as EAU changing to EAUX, EU to EUX, OU to OUX, AL to AUX. That's a lot of X's. Plus there are irregular words which are completely different in the plural and words that are the same in the singular and the plural. This makes French sound like the most difficult. Maybe, but it has a strong competitor. Portuguese. As with Spanish, Portuguese has a number of words that follow the OA to OSAS rule. But there are lots of exceptions, or rather different, longer endings. They have groups of endings, rather like in French, so let's just list a few of them. These are mainly masculine endings. A tilde O, L, U, AR. Feminine might be AGEM, DADE, EZA, URA, C, A tilde, O. But the real challenge for a learner is when they are made plural. Yes, there are patterns, but there are quite a lot of them. This is probably easier seen with some words rather than just the endings. So here's a small selection. It feels to me like there are many more of these different spellings than there are in French, but that may just be because I'm not as familiar with it. I did start learning French when I was 11, and I only started Portuguese this year. Okay, let's move on to verbs. Let's start with subject pronouns used with verbs. In English, we always say he, she, it, they when talking about something, but other languages are different. Sometimes, or possibly most of the time, they miss out the subject pronoun because the verb conjugation tells you who is being referenced. It doesn't in English. All these languages have verbs which change depending on the person, but one of these always uses the subject pronoun. Which one? That would be French. It does lose it in commands and in other rare circumstances, and it can be kind of merged in speech, but it's technically there. The other three, Spanish, Italian and Portuguese, generally don't use them, unless it's not obvious, or they want to add emphasis. At first, certainly having the subject pronouns is easier, and most language teaching includes them in all of these languages when you start. But once you start reading genuine texts in the language, you'll see them much less, and you probably shouldn't use them when speaking the majority of the time. Which is easier? You'll have to decide that for yourself. Our next verb-based topic is the main past tense. All these languages have many past tenses which all work in a similar way, but there is a difference in the main standard past tense that these languages use, and that you'll probably get taught first, or possibly second with the imperfect first. Two of these languages use a compound tense as their main past tense, and two don't. What is a compound past tense? That means it uses two verbs. All these languages have what are called auxiliary verbs that are used to determine the person speaking, and a past participle of the main verb, which determines what is happening. The auxiliary verbs sometimes change depending on the main verb, and in some cases the past participle agrees with the person it is referring to, or to the object of the verb. This can get quite complicated. However, you already by this stage will know the conjugation of the auxiliary verbs, and the past participles are easily formed for all regular verbs. The languages which use a more simple past, a verb conjugated with different endings, don't have all the problems with auxiliary verb and whether or not there's an agreement to be made. But you do have to learn a whole new set of endings and irregular verbs. French and Italian fall into the first category, and Spanish and Portuguese into the second. Which is easier? Probably the latter when you first start learning languages, but after you've learnt more than one and you understand the complexities of auxiliary verb conjugation, that might reverse. Only might. Agreements are always difficult for English speakers. And yes, some areas of Italy do use a non-compound tense as the main past tense, but that isn't the main past tense you will be taught to start with. And on to our final topic, the verb to be. In French, être. In Italian, essere. In Spanish and Portuguese, ser and estar. Yes, two verbs for to be that are used in different circumstances. Both Spanish and Portuguese have the same infinitive, but of course the conjugation is different. As a very basic general idea, ser is used for more permanent things, and estar is used for transient things and location, although location is a little more complicated in Portuguese. Ser and estar are something that you will make a ton of mistakes with, probably for quite a long time. It's all trial and error. But that's learning a language through and through, isn't it? Which language is easiest and which is the most difficult? That's for you to decide. But I hope this has been a useful overview of some of the things you will have to tackle if you start learning one of these languages. And now I need to go and take a lie down in a darkened room.